Hello, and you're very welcome back to the Faithful Podcast channel. My name is Liam White, and today we are here to both preview the upcoming games in this weekend's Offaly Senior Hurling Championship, but to look back on the game that took place last night in O'Brien Park between Tullamore and Ballinamere. Shout out, first of all, to Freelance Advertising Ireland for making my new logo and for making my match graphics as well. So big shout out to him. Give his page a follow. It's in the description below. A fantastic game last night between Tullamore and Ballinamere in what was Ballinamere's second round in the championship after their defeat to Coolderry in the opening round. But it was Tullamore's first game, and it was their first game under their new coach, Shane Hand, who was Cormac Lahi manager there for the last 2 years and is now undertaking the role as manager of Tullamore. And it's amazing. Like, Tullamore are more profoundly known as a football club. They did win the Offaly Championship back in 2009. We're back in the final in 2010, but they've not been, I suppose, a real powerhouse in hurling terms over the last 10, 15 years. But now I think after last night, it kind of proves that they are going in the right direction. You know, they've a lot of good few young players coming through. They still have a lot of experienced players in their squad, the likes of the Houligans, the likes of Shane Dooley, they gave a really, really good account of themselves. I thought they were excellent in this game. And they showed last night that they are going to be well capable of beating anybody in this championship. And they're going to be well capable of going toe-to-toe with everybody in this championship, especially the teams that they're going up against in the group stage, the likes of Sir Kieran, the likes of Burr, and potentially even Coolderry as well, for as well as they did against Ballinamere in their opening game, winning their match. You know, it's going to make for a very interesting viewership, you know, over the next couple of weeks, how Tullamore exactly get on in their games. But yeah, no, it's really intriguing to see. For Ballinamere, it was just really, really important to get the win. It was really, really important just to put any sort of doubts that there were there about them after the opening game behind them, and for people to I suppose to be aware that they are still a fantastic side and they will have still a big say on how this championship season goes. But yeah, no, nevertheless, it was a great win for Ballinamere in the end. And that's exactly where we're going to start. So last night's game finished 4-18 to 2-18 between Ballinamere and Tullamore. It was a funny kind of a game. Ballinamere, they looked to have been somewhat in control throughout the opening stages of the game. They got that goal very, very early on. I feel like Tullamore will be looking back on some of the goals that they did concede in this game and probably be thinking to themselves they were soft enough to give away, which still shows how competitive they were. The fact that they're probably going to be devastated to have not won the game or taken something from the game over two relatively soft goals. You know, poor Cormac Martin just had maybe a difficult night in nets, trying to deal with the likes of Aaron Maher and Mike O'Brien going up for those bad efforts into the net, and then the confusion in with the first goal as well. But no, look, you got to give credit to Tullamore. They were fighting back, despite the slow start. And that's kind of understandable as well. Like, it is their first game at the end of the day of the season in the championship. So you're obviously going to be a small bit rusty when you go into a game. It makes absolute sense. But I thought they pulled themselves back into the game really, really well. And they ended the first half like an absolute house on fire. They went into halftime 110 to 1-8 in front. Like I felt the performances of Cormac Egan. I felt the performance levels of James Houlihan, and I felt the Foxes as well. Mike and Dan were having huge games as well. They were just real determined in this game. They were showing their skill. They were showing their cuteness on the ball as well. Their pace. Just everything that you sort of would have wanted from them. I was really impressed with them in the first half. Probably a small bit disappointed maybe with Ballinamere. Obviously, Brian Dignan, I still feel like Dignan maybe got back up to pace with things, in this game, having maybe not looked at his absolute best during the opening game against Coolderry. I feel like he was kind of back to his old self somewhat yesterday, despite, look, the first half, obviously, the frees weren't going his way. And obviously that's something that he'll want to work on for the next couple of games, because if Ballinamere are to win the championship this year, if they are to get anywhere in the championship this year, they're going to need, their free taker absolutely on form, and especially with the likes of Dan Ravenhill out at the moment as well, who's well capable of taking a long range free. That he'll want to be nailing those sort of short range frees in the next couple of games. But no, look, Ballinamere, they came out in the second half, and I suppose they had a point to prove, because if they had lost this game, then it would have been detrimental to their season. There's no question about it. But yeah, no, look, they came out in the second half. They got 3 goals. Tullamore were leading 2-14 to 2-13 coming into the last 12 minutes of the game. And again, the players that I've mentioned there, the Foxes and the Houligans. Like, if James Houlihan genuinely would have been man of the match if Tullamore had won this game, and it's unfortunate that they didn't from their perspective. Would have been a real big shock in the Offaly Championship. But look, Ballinamere finished the game strongly in the end, and look, a win is a win at this stage. That's all really that they needed. They just needed a victory to get themselves over the line, and they've done exactly that. So they'll move on to the next round, which they will have a bye for, but their next game will be against Sir Kieran, as it will be for Tullamore. And it'll be interesting to see how Sir Kieran get on against Coolderry this weekend, because I reckon after that performance yesterday, Tullamore, and in particularly Shane Hand, I know Declan Hogan as well, the former Offaly football captain, is in with the hurlers on the management team as well. So they'll certainly be looking at Sir Kieran as a big target now and thinking we can beat them this year and we can get ourselves a win. And certainly they can get themselves a quarter final. There's no doubts about it. If they're able to compete with Ballinamere, last season's beaten finalists, in this manner, then I certainly believe that they can go further now and try and get themselves into knockout stages, which would be huge progress for them, considering last season they lost all their group games after only just coming up from the Senior B the year before. So yeah, no, look, really thoroughly entertaining game. I thought it was the right decision to bring the game to O'Brien Park rather than O'Connor Park. It created a real special atmosphere. The crowd were in close. It was a real derby. It was a real local derby. You could really tell. Very intense fixture as well. Things were getting hot and heavy at times, which was, I suppose, enjoyable to watch. But fantastic for Ballinamere to get the win. The monkey off their back now of having their first 2 points on the board. And they can now look forward to the games ahead. And like I said, for Tullamore, it's unfortunate, but I certainly think they will take so much from this game, and they will absolutely be gunning now for the next round in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, fantastic game, it has to be said. But looking at the rest of the fixtures for this weekend. So starting off this evening, we have St. Rynagh's taking on Belmont, which is in Banagher this evening. And yeah, this is a very interesting fixture because St. Rynagh's are a team who at the moment are probably going through a bit of a transitional period. They're probably not as strong as they were a couple of years ago. Certainly not the team that won 4 championships between 2016 and 2021, as well as reaching the final again in 17, reaching it in 15, 14. I feel like that team is sort of, I wouldn't say gone, but it's certainly in a real transitional period at the moment. They're trying to integrate new players into their squad, and some of their older statesmen are probably at the wrong ends of their career at the moment. But you got to give them credit. They went against Shinrone, who many people, including myself, have probably been rating as like the third favourites for the Offaly Championship this year, behind the likes of Kilcormac, Cloughey and Ballinamere. And there was only a puck of a ball in it. There was absolutely nothing in it at all. It was a very, very closely fought encounter. And look, DJ McLaughlin obviously did his thing on the night and got a couple of scores. Killian Sampson did well at centre back, and I think O'Bailey O'Brien had a good game as well. But you look at St. Rynagh's, the players that you'd expect to play well, Ben Keneally did good on the night. Shane Rigney, who I think could be a genuine starter for the Offaly senior hurlers next year, has been unbelievable for the under-20s over the last couple of years as well. And I think did well for Rynagh's last year in what was his kind of first proper year. I know he had 2023, but last year it felt like it was his real big year to start integrating himself into the St. Rynagh's team. He did well the last time out as well. And they have a lot of experienced players in their team. Dara Scully's a good young hurler as well. You obviously have Gary Keneally, who's very well experienced as well. It's still a relatively, decent enough Rynagh's team, but. And look, they do have home advantage this weekend, which is crucial, or well, this evening. They do have home advantage, which is massive, massive for them. Try and get themselves a win at home. This is the truth. They won't want to lose at home. Nobody does. And it's funny, there's not been a lot of teams that have really made great use of their home advantages yet. I think Shinrone are still the only ones who actually won a home game, and that was ironically against Rynagh's. So, it's going to take a really, really tough performance from Belmont to still win this game. And that's obviously coming from the perspective that Belmont will be coming into this game on a big high, I feel, after the draw with Kilcormac in the opening round, which not a lot of people sort of expected, because look, Kilcormac had their injury problems going into that game in Moystown there 2 weeks ago. But, Belmont themselves had injury problems. Joe Maher wasn't playing, Oisin Kelly wasn't playing, Leon Fox is transferred to a club in Louth, so they were really kind of down on numbers, but they got everything sort of right. They got all their positional changes, or their their man markings correct, and their tactics were spot on. And obviously it was a warm day as well. It was a very, very humid, hot day. It was very difficult for both teams, really all teams that weekend, to be playing hurling matches. But yeah, look, they'd be ruined the fact that they didn't win the game, because had you told Belmont before the game that week that they'd get a draw with Kilcormac, they'd have absolutely taken it. And then by the end of the game, they'd have been saying, no, that we wanted to win. That would have been a much better result. But look, still credit to them. They put up a huge battle to Kilcormac and really should have came away from the game with a victory. But they'll take such confidence from that knowing that with the likes of with David Nally there, who I'll be honest with you now, I still can't believe that David Nally didn't get more minutes with Offaly this year. I think he's a terrific hurler. I thought Patrick Taff had some excellent spells there the last day as well. I thought he was really, really solid there at cornerback. And as well, you're also missing Paddy Clancy, who I only realised as well lately. Paddy Clancy was an Offaly senior hurler the last couple of years, and I thought he was a really good player as well. And he could cause you trouble on any given day. So you're missing players like that. Obviously, they do have the likes of Jack Clancy there, still the Egan's and all those kind of players. So they're still Coughlin as well, very good hurler. All these sorts of players. But obviously, look, it was tough for them to get a draw in the end. They would have absolutely loved the victory. But no, look, they'll be going to Banagher with absolutely no fear at all. And if they can get a win here, it'd be absolutely massive for their season. Given the games that they do have remaining, the games coming up against Kinnity, who they'll want to put that right after last year's results. Losing that was sort of the game that kind of threw them off. Just absolutely shattered their season, and it was only the first round, but it just really kind of put things into perspective, because they'd won the league the week before, and then they lost the game against Kinnity, which nobody really expected. People thought Belmont would have won that game in a way, not relatively comfortable enough, but they felt they'd had too much for Kinnity that day, and then they lost by 3 points, and it all just kind of fell apart from there. They had a good performance against Ballinamere, but lost out by 6 points. Had a heartbreaking defeat against Burr in Lusma last year in the last minute with Ben Miller's unbelievable point, which we've become accustomed to over the last year or so. He's really good at getting those scores near the sideline from 45, 60 yards out. But then obviously, and then they had a tame enough defeat against Shinraw in the final round before securing their safety, which in the end, with KK winning the Senior B Championship, I suppose it didn't matter too much in the end. But they'll be just delighted to have gotten a point on the board already, and they'll be looking at the remaining fixtures in this season and thinking, we can get points here. We can absolutely take results here. So, yeah, no, look, huge game for Belmont this evening. As for Rhinus, yeah, look, it's always hard to know with them, because even though you feel they're in a bit of a transitional period, it is still St. Rhinus. They are still a very, very proud club, with a lot of players in their team who can get you over the line in games. Even the likes of Aaron Kenny as well, Matthew Maloney, Aidan Tracy, experienced players like these, Keelan Rigney, Connor Clancy, who'd lined out with Louth this year. These are all experienced players who can still get you over the line in games. But yeah, look, I suppose if I was to be going with a prediction for this game this weekend, see, it feels easy to be saying this because they did get a draw the last day and momentum can be a huge thing, but I actually have a feeling Belmont will get the win this evening. Now, this could go back and bite me, and I could look a fool come 9 o'clock this evening, but I just have a feeling that defeat could hurt Rhinus. Now, it could absolutely explode them into life and make them think, we need to get a win here to save our season and try to prove a lot of people wrong, but I just have a feeling Belmont might just secure a big win. That draw could have done so much for them. I think since Eamon Keenan's gone in as a coach with them, and he's done a fantastic job with them, and he'll have them set up properly as well, along with their manager. So yeah, no, I think I'm going to go with a Belmont victory this evening. Look, I wouldn't sit here and say I'm absolutely 100% confident of that. There's absolutely every chance Rhinus could win the game, or this could even be a draw. It's very hard to call, and even with the likes of the players that they are still missing Belmont, I just have a feeling David Nally could have a performance in him and could get them over the line in this game. And as well, he missed a couple of chances the last day as well, as did so many other players for Belmont. So they'll have learned from the last day, I feel. And look, I think it's going to be a cracking game. I actually think it will be. I think it'd be like for a club game, I think it'd be a high scoring game. But yeah, I'm going to favour it to Belmont. I think they're going to get over the line against St. Ryan's this evening in Banagher. So we're going to move on to the next game, which is between Kinnity and Shinrone. This will be much like Tullamore last night, Kinnity's first game in the championship this year. They host Shinrone. Kinnity, it's very tricky for them. Paddy Delaney is going to be out for this game. They are missing a couple of other lads as well, which is really, really unfortunate for Kinnity. You know, they're small enough parish, you know, trying to rely on the same sort of lads over the last couple of years. And look, I was really, really proud of them last year and impressed with them last year. You know, they got a draw against Shinrone, pulled off that big win against Belmont. I thought they put up a good performance against Balmere for 40, 45 minutes before they started to pull away towards the end. And then against Burr, obviously, was just a step too far. But I thought they did really, really well last year in the championship, considering the group that they were in. But it just feels like maybe this year, it just doesn't maybe feel like it's going to be like that again this year. I feel like they probably will be in a relegation battle come the end of the championship, especially when you look at the remainder of the games they have. Like, you have Shinrone there, you have Belmont now, who are after, they feel somewhat rejuvenated now after the season they had last year. You've Kilcormac away from home, which is a daunting task for them, really. And you know, you have St. Ryan's, which you could maybe take something from that, but at the same time, it's going to be very, very difficult to do that with still some of the experienced players that Ryan's have in their squad. They have it at home, this game at home, which is vital for them, and they'll hope to try and put on a good show for their home supporters. But I just don't see them getting a victory over Shinrone. I think Shinrone, that win against Rhinus was crucial for them. They got to a league final. They've been having a very, very good season. And they've been able to get over the line in these sort of big games over the last couple of years. You know, they won the championship in 2022. They got over the line in the games against Rhinus, against Belmont, against Kilcormac, and they were proving that they can win these tight games, you know. And they proved it again in 2023, getting over Ballinamere in the semi-final. And even last year, to a degree, winning tight games in the group stages as well. So, you know, I just feel like Ryan or Shinrone will have too much for Kinnity here in this game. You know, you look at Bailey O'Brien, you look at Killian Sampson. Jason Sampson's always a very reliable club player as well. You know, Eamon Cleary is a very solid shot stopper as well. You know, you've Kieran Cleary as well, who's back as well and seems to be back in good form as well. You've Duck Morecambe there. You know, you've all these players who are, you know, very, very solid, very, very reliable as well. Adam Landy as well. DJ McLaughlin, like I mentioned earlier, is in unbelievable form at the moment. So yeah, I just have a feeling, and I meant to mention as well, yeah, Adrian Cleary's back as well. He's a crucial player to have back for Shinrone. It was obviously an Offaly senior hurler there for a number of years before he stepped off the panel last year. But yeah, no, I just feel like Shinrone will have too much for Kinnity in this game. I feel like, I wouldn't say it'd be a hammering, but I just feel like you could be looking at a scoreline of like 120 to 14 points or something like that. Just relatively comfortable for Shinrone, not having to maybe do a whole load to maybe win the game. Kinnity will give it socks. They absolutely will. They're a proud club and they'll always try and show up and make it hard for their opponents. And they probably still will. And maybe the scoreline will be a bit more closer than that. But I just feel like Shinrone, they now sort of have that knack of getting over the line in these sort of games and in big games. So I'm gonna slide it to Shinrone for this weekend. I think they're gonna make it 2 wins out of 2 and put themselves in an excellent position to try and get themselves into the next round, the knockout stages of the Offaly Championship. And yeah, now we go on to the final game of the weekend, which is between Coolderry and Sir Kieran. I will be at this game. I'm going to be doing commentary for Clubber. And yeah, look, again, I just feel like this will be a tough encounter for Sir Kieran. They just don't have, they're relying on, again, sort of the older players in their team, the likes of the Kevin Duns and I know Joe Bergen didn't play the last day, but even players like him, you know, the John Coughlin's at centre back, you know, just sort of these players like that, maybe, you know, the younger players maybe aren't just there at the moment, you know, that the panel isn't there at the moment. And it was kind of evident against Burr, you know, the sort of hammering that they got against them was really tough to watch. But yeah, and look, you're coming up against a Coolderry team who are after having an unbelievable victory against Ballinamere, you know, absolutely taking them apart from the very first minute of the game and showing such hunger and desire and determination to get themselves a victory there. You know, their half-back line was unbelievable. The Will Malones, David Kings, the Connollys at the back, Kevin Connolly at centre forward, Owen Burke, you know, Daniel Miller coming off the bench, scoring 2-2 in the space of 10, 11, 12 minutes. their midfield as well was so solid on the day. Keane Burke inside there was really, really good. And Shane Ryan as well, I thought, had an excellent game. Like, you're coming up against players like this, it's going to be making it very, very difficult. And yeah, look, there's not much else really to say about this. I don't see Sir Kieran taking victory here, especially with the game being in Coolderry as well, them having home advantage. I can see this being a comfortable enough evening for Coolderry. And so I suppose, look, the Senior B Championship is happening this weekend as well. Clara are taking on Clodia Gales. Clara got a win against Coolderry the opening day, which was crucial for them. They have some very talented young hurlers in their team, the likes of Marcus Dalton, the likes of Connor Doyle, the likes of Barry Egan, all these sorts of players. Connor Doyle, Marcus Dalton, I think I mentioned them already. But yeah, just really, really good players. And you're looking at Clodia Gales. They were missing players the last day against Carrigan Riverstown, but they were at home, and it was a tough defeat for them to take. They were relying very heavily on Liam Langton, which is not what you need. But look, they still have some good enough players. Obviously, going away from home against Clara will be tricky. But yeah, look, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the team news will be out soon enough, anyways. So we'll have to wait and see what sort of team Clodia Gales have out. So that could maybe, if they have the team out that you would hope that they would have out, they're strong enough, they're strong as 15, then you feel they should maybe win the game. But I think just for the moment, with having won the last day and the sort of defeat that Clodia Gales had against Carrigan Riverstown, I'm going to shape it to Clara for the moment. But obviously that could all change. My opinion could just change in the next hour or so once I see what the starting 15 is from Clara. In the next round of games, we have Cormac Callaghy. Actually, I'll mention the game that happened last night as well. Lusma defeated Coolderry 321 to 118 in Lusma. Great win for them. 2 wins out of 2 now in the Senior B Championship, and they're motoring along very, very nicely. They were very, very impressive in their win over Kilcormac Callaghy in the opening round of Kilcormac. Obviously, Evan Kelly put in a huge performance. Rory Kelly putting in massive performances as well for the Lusma side. And yeah, look, you got to give them credit. They're a proud, again, another proud club, small enough club, relying on very small numbers as we speak. But they're proving themselves to be very, very tricky side to break down, and it's fabulous to see. It's absolutely fabulous to see. And I hope that they do manage to get themselves somewhat maybe to a Senior B final or back to the Senior Championship soon enough, because they're a great little club, a very proud club, much like Coolderry, and obviously the St. Rynesses of the world and all that, yeah, look, fair play to them. Great win last night over Coolderry, and yeah, they'll be moving on to the next round the next day and try and make it 3 wins from 3. And so yeah, move it, and then we'll just finish off briefly, or we'll focus just on the final game of the weekend in the Senior B Hurling Championship, which is between Carrigan Riverstown and Kilcormac Callaghy. This would be an intriguing encounter because Kilcormac Callaghy, obviously the last day, I suppose they weren't at their best against Lusma, it has to be fair to say. Now, Lusma were excellent, don't get me wrong, but Kilcormac Callaghy weren't at their best either. And they have lost a good chunk of players from the panel of the last 2 years, with all the injuries that they have at Senior A at the moment, having to go up and play their game against Belmont. So they have lost a big chunk of the players from the Senior B team this year. So it's going to always make things difficult. And I don't think a lot of people maybe in the county are maybe, I wouldn't say expecting Kilcormac Callaghy to do 3 in a row this year, but I feel like the main aim will be to try and win the Senior A, maybe, and the Junior A, I'd presume, as well. Junior A's last night were in action against Brosnan Gales, lost by 2 points in the end. Very, very entertaining game. Could have gone either way in the end. Kilcormac Callaghy kept pushing for a goal. It just didn't come, but I think it just shows they are getting closer to Brosnan Gales, and as time goes on towards the end of the year, if they can keep up this momentum, then it might not be the last time we see Kilcormac Callaghy facing Brosnan Gales in the Junior A Championship. But go back to the Senior B. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of Kilcormac Callaghy team lines out tomorrow. And yeah, going up against the Carrigan Riverstown team, who, it has to be said, they're motoring along very, very nicely. They won the intermediate a couple of years ago, had an unbelievable win over Clodia Gales there the last time out, having a 218, I think it was a 218 to 15 points. They were winners over Clodia Gales away from home, which was a huge victory, and that could do so much for them. Like, they got to the semi-finals last year, and it was really if we're going to be honest, it was the surprise of absolutely nobody, to be honest with you. It didn't surprise me at all. Like, when you do look at the players that they do have in their team, when you look at the players that they have in their squad, you've obviously got the likes of Liam Hoare, who is one of the best goalkeepers in the county at the moment. He's young, and he's he's just an excellent shot stopper, brilliant poke out. His poke outs are very, very good. Yeah, no, it was 218 to 16 points. Sorry, I'm only just have to realizing now that was the scoreline the last day, not 15 points. But yeah, no, the likes of Liam Hoare, I think Caleb Larkin's a fine young cornerback. Has had his injury problems over the last couple of years, but I think when he's in form and he is fully fit, he is a very, very solid player. You've the likes of Cathal King, who's an established Offaly senior hurler now, Andrew Coakley, who had an unbelievable game the last day as well. Your Connor Freemans, your David Egan's, really, really solid players. Paddy Bergens, the Willie Gleason's, it's a really, really nice team that they're putting together at the moment. And they will absolutely, much like Lusma, be looking at the Senior B this year and thinking, this is our opportunity. We have a chance here to win this, and we can get ourselves up to the Senior A Championship for 2026. Yeah, look, I feel like just with momentum at the moment, and I feel like with the players that Kilcormac maybe have lost at the moment, I'm probably going to shade it to Carrigan Riverstown to maybe win this game tomorrow. I could be very, very wrong in this, and it could turn out to be maybe a revival. They've won the last two Senior B championships, so I wouldn't really call it a revival. But I suppose for Kilcormac to turn their season around, to get a win away to Carrigan Riverstown would be absolutely massive. But I am going to shade it at the moment to Carrigan Riverstown, but I could be wrong. So we'll have to wait and see there. Yeah, that's most of the action coming up this weekend in the Malloy Precast and Environmental Systems Offaly Senior Hurling Championship. Before we go as well, I want to give a mention to the All-Ireland football final, which is happening this weekend between Kerry and Donegal. I feel like Kerry will get over the line. Donegal obviously will have their plan. Jim McGuinness is a very intelligent man. He will try and spot the dangers that will be coming from the likes of Paddy Clifford, from the likes of Sean O'Shea, and of course David Clifford as well. But I just feel like the form he's in at the moment, I don't think anybody in the country is going to be able to stop him. And then if you try and stop him, you have to stop Sean O'Shea. Paddy Clifford's dictating the play really, really well at the moment. Joe O'Connor is like a man reborn. Bruno Bregliok is having a really solid last couple of games at wingback as well. Gavin White, these sorts of players. And look, Donegal have their unbelievable players as well. I would love it to see Michael Murphy win another All-Ireland. It'd be brilliant for him. Paddy McBreard, who's given so many years, the Gallons, the O'Donnells, all these players, Patter Morgans, McHughes, just all these players. They're terrific players, and I really, really am looking forward to the game on Sunday. Hopefully it'll be a cracking game, but I am going to shade it to Kerry. I think Sam Maguire is coming home to the kingdom. So yeah, that's just about going to wrap it up. Solo episode this evening. Hopefully we'll try and get some guests on over the next while anyways. But yeah, look, that's the end of the episode. Thank you so much to anyone who has tuned in. Can't blame me if you didn't. But to anyone who has tuned in or is tuned in at the moment, really, really appreciate it. Thanks for supporting the channel. We'll have some reviews coming out next week of the weekend's action, and we'll do some previews ahead of the football action again next weekend. And we'll try to do a preview in the next couple of weeks as well of the Offaly Camogie team in their All-Ireland final in the Intermediate Championship against Kerry in Croke Park as well. Follow the Faithful _ podcast on Instagram. And once again, a big shout out to Freelance Advertising Ireland for doing my new logo as well as my match graphics as well. Unbelievable work. Give him a shout out as well. The link is in the description below. So yeah, just thanks a million for watching. Enjoy the games at the weekend. Enjoy the All-Ireland final on Sunday. And yeah, we'll chat to you again soon. Until then, I'll chat to you in a while.